Imagine, just 100 meters remain above our heads before we hit sea level. We stand on the threshold of a place that once seemed unreachable. This isn't just a dot on a map, it is the frontier of possibility. Now, ask yourself, what do a hovering city in the middle of a lifeless desert, a ski resort amidst the sand dunes of Saudi Arabia, and a nuclear reactor capable of getting hotter than the sun have in common? All these ideas sound like science fiction, but they are real. These are the most ambitious and insanely expensive projects on the planet. From giant airports that never achieve success to underwater tunnels that defy the laws of nature, before you are the 20 most expensive construction projects on Earth. Watch until the end and decide for yourself, is this the future that awaits us or the most luxurious experiment in history?
The UK's nuclear bill. Nuclear energy has never been cheap, and Hinkley Point C is the best proof of that. On the coast of Somerset, a giant nuclear power plant is being built, having already eaten up more than $31 billion, and it is still unfinished. The idea was simple on paper: 2 state-of-the-art reactors capable of providing millions of people with clean, low-emission energy. But as soon as construction began, reality quickly kicked in. Technical difficulties, rising material costs, and endless delays turned the schedule into a veritable maze. Supporters say Hinkley Point C is the key to the UK's energy future. Old nuclear plants are closing, fossil fuels are on the way out, and this station must support a stable power supply and cut emissions. But with every year of delay, the sum keeps growing. The station should have been operational by now, but launch is pushed back to the mid-2030s. Today, it is one of Europe's most expensive energy projects.
Oil under the ice. Extracting oil is already an expensive endeavor, but when it's under a frozen sea, in a hell of storms and ice, that's a different level. The Kashagan project in Kazakhstan became one of the most complex and expensive energy projects on the planet, with costs exceeding $50 billion. Located in the northern Caspian Sea, this is no ordinary drilling platform. Engineers had to build artificial islands just to start working. Then, the real nightmare began. Brutal frosts, aggressive gas, and equipment failures. The initial goal was grand: to unlock one of the world's largest undeveloped oil reserves. In reality, the project became a textbook case of delays and a budget bursting at the seams. It was supposed to be Kazakhstan's golden ticket to the League of Energy Giants. But today, many ask, is Kashagan a warning about risks or a victory over the impossible?
Europe's backbone for hundreds of billions. Now, let's see what happens when an entire continent decides to completely rebuild its roads and transport routes. The 10T project is Europe's bold plan, costing over $600 billion with timelines stretching to the middle of the century. This isn't just patching up a couple of roads. The plans include networks of high-speed trains, modernized highways, new ports, and ultra-modern airports, all linked in to a single transport web. The ultimate goal is to make travel and trade across Europe faster, easier, and cleaner. On paper, it sounds like the ideal strategy for the future, but in reality, everything is much more complicated. Almost 30 countries must agree, factoring in politics, bureaucracy, environmental checks, and mountains of paperwork. Delays are piling up, and costs continue to rise. But if this project does reach completion, it could change absolutely everything. Cross-border transport will take hours instead of days, and the skies will be cleaner from exhaust fumes.
The airport that wants to be first. Dubai doesn't know how to think small, and Al Maktoum International Airport is proof of this approach. This isn't just a new terminal, but a $33 billion project aiming to become the largest airport on the planet. Think about it. Over 250 million passengers annually. That's double what any current airport can handle.
The plan includes 5 runways, several terminals, and an entire city surrounding it. Hotels, retail zones, logistics centers, and residential blocks. Al Maktoum is conceived not just as an airport, but as a complete ecosystem. The start was loud and ambitious, but delays and shifting priorities stood in the way. The pandemic hit international travel hard and forced a rethink of future demand. But Dubai hasn't given up. Construction continues, even if it doesn't hit the headlines as often. The stakes are high, the cost is rising, and predicting what the world of travel will look like in 10 years is getting harder. So, this is a true billion-dollar game of survival in a changing world.
City of Steel and Smoke. In the Saudi Arabian desert, one of the largest industrial zones on the planet is growing. Jubail 2 is not just a modernization of a couple of factories. It represents over $80 billion invested in expanding an already existing industrial city. The goal is to help the kingdom move away from oil dependence and build a diversified industrial economy. It's not just factories and pipes here. It's an entire infrastructural universe. Ports, highways, refineries, water supplies, and energy grids. Everything is tailored for heavy industry, from petrochemicals to power generation. The project launched in the mid-2000s and develops in waves. New facilities appear one after another, endlessly expanding the map of Saudi Arabia's eastern coast. Jubail 2 is part of the kingdom's grand plan to diversify the economy and strengthen its position in global trade. Yes, there is no glitz and hype like Neom, but this is the foundation upon which the future is being built. Huge costs, long timelines, huge stakes.
California's high-speed headache. Now let's move to California. They conceived a plan to radically change travel, connecting San Francisco and Los Angeles with a train racing at 350 kilometers per hour. It sounded like the dawn of a new era for the USA, a fast, clean, and modern transport system. But in practice, the project turned into one of the most controversial infrastructure stories in America. The initial budget was around $33 billion. Today, that figure has ballooned to over $100 billion with no end in sight. Issues with land acquisition, endless environmental reviews, and political wars have stalled the process for years. After so many years of planning and spending, there isn't a single fully operational kilometer of track.
Tunnel under the water. One of the boldest projects in engineering history is the 31-mile railway tunnel under the English Channel, linking Great Britain and France. Its cost, adjusted for inflation, exceeded $22 billion. The history of this megaproject dragged on for decades. Arguments, plans, doubts. When construction finally began in the late 80s, it was christened a miracle of modern engineering. 3 giant tunnels cut through chalk and clay, 2 for trains, 1 for maintenance. The goal? Connect London and Paris in just 3 hours. But in practice, it came at a very high price. The budget burst at the seams, machinery broke down, and politicians argued. And when traffic finally opened in '94, it was a historic event. Today, the tunnel is a key element of European logistics and tourism, but its legacy is not just trains. It is a reminder that if countries unite for a grand goal, the results can shake an entire continent, even if the debt for the construction takes many, many years to pay off.
A city from scratch. Imagine having to build a fully fledged city from scratch. Let me tell you straight away, it's not a cheap pleasure. King Abdullah Economic City, or KAEC, is a Saudi project worth $100 billion, conceived as a step toward a new economy. On the coast of the Red Sea, a space of over 180 square kilometers has sprung up. But this isn't just residential buildings and skyscrapers. KAEC is designed as a self-sufficient metropolis with luxury districts, a giant port, industrial zones, financial centers, and entertainment venues. The goal is ambitious: reduce the kingdom's dependence on oil by turning this city into a magnet for business, tourism, and technology.
But this is a titanic task. Construction has been dragging on for years, progress is uneven, and global economic shocks only slow things down. Some districts have come to life. People live there, work in factories, and the port is functioning. But a large part of the project remains unfinished, and deadlines have been pushed back dozens of times.
Island in the Bay. Building an airport is a challenge in itself, but building it on an artificial island in the middle of Osaka Bay is a level of insane engineering. Kansai International Airport cost Japan more than $20 billion. The goal was to solve two problems at once: the growing flow of passengers and the harsh natural conditions of the region, prone to typhoons and earthquakes. The entire building stands on man-made land piled up in deep water. The project opened in 1994 and was immediately recognized as an engineering marvel. But problems didn't wait long. The ground began to sink much faster than people expected. To save the runways from sinking into the sea, billions more had to be poured into strengthening and stabilizing the island. Even with these difficulties, the airport remains a key hub for international transport. But the price of the spectacle turned out to be colossal and continues to rise.
Sydney's billion-dollar underground network. Now let's move to Australia. Digging tunnels under a bustling metropolis is a challenge in itself. Doing it while traffic continues to boil overhead is an engineering nightmare. The WestConnex project is the largest road construction in Australia's history. The price is over $11 billion. The goal is to completely reboot Sydney's transport system. More than 30 kilometers of tunnels and new routes connecting key highways into a single network. The main idea is to reduce traffic jams, speed up trips, and decongest one of the country's most overloaded cities. It all sounds nice, but in fact, it was not without scandals. Residents complained about noise and pollution during the work. Critics slammed the cost and doubted whether the project would solve the traffic problem or simply move it elsewhere. Nevertheless, construction is in full swing. Part of the tunnels is already open. Other sections are in process. Giant boring machines, crazy deadlines, complex coordination. WestConnex is changing the face of Sydney underground. It is a bold plan to build a city of the future where roads flow not on the surface but beneath it. But with such sums at stake, mistakes are unacceptable. This is a road gamble with huge risk.
The $500 billion dream. $500 billion, a colossal sum with no clear finish line on the horizon. Neom is not just a megaproject, it is an attempt to rewrite the very concept of a city, and the whole world is watching this spectacle. There are no familiar streets, cars, or carbon emissions here. Meet the line, a structure 105 kilometers long, straight as a blade with a zero carbon footprint. Oxagon, an industrial hub literally floating on the waves of the Red Sea. Trojena, a ski resort in the heart of the scorching desert. It sounds like a sci-fi novel, but it is already taking shape in northern Saudi Arabia. The government has poured over $500 billion into this mad design. The deadline is 2030, but time is running out, and the technology needed to bring it all to life is still playing catch-up with the dream. Supporters call Neom the prototype for the cities of tomorrow. Clean, smart, interconnected. Critics are harsher, an overly expensive illusion pumped up by advertising with no guarantee of a return on investment. But one thing is certain, this is the most expensive project in human history, and the budget is still growing. Some predict the total cost could surpass $1 trillion. The German airport that couldn't take off. Berlin's Brandenburg Airport was supposed to be a symbol of German efficiency and precision. Modern, stylish, convenient. Instead, it became a global meme. After many false starts, technical nightmares, and political squabbles, it finally opened in 2020, almost a decade later than planned and costing more than $8 billion. Initially, the opening was planned for 2011, but everything went awry. The fire system didn't work, escalators turned out to be the wrong length, wiring resembled chaos, inspections failed, contractors quit, and with every new failure, the budget ballooned. In the end, the project became a black hole for tax money and a blow to Germany's image as a bastion of engineering discipline. While other countries built innovative airports and surprised the world, BER simply couldn't open its doors. Now it works, yes, passengers fly, but the shadow of this disgrace still hangs over it. And even if traffic grows, the airport will have to prove its value for a long time. What was conceived as a symbol of progress turned into a visual aid on how not to build airports. Years of failure, billions in losses. The Berlin airport barely managed to take off.
A giant theme park in the desert. One of the most audacious entertainment projects on the planet wasn't in Las Vegas or Orlando. It was Dubai Land. The price tag? Over $76 billion. The ambition? To create an entertainment district that would eclipse all known parks in the world. It was supposed to have everything: huge amusement parks, luxury resorts, shopping malls, sports arenas, and even a full-scale replica of the Taj Mahal. The scale was twice the size of Disney World. Dubai Land was supposed to turn Dubai into the global capital of entertainment. But soon, things went off script. After a pompous start in the early 2000s, the world was hit by a financial crisis. Construction stalled, some things were built, some were cut, and much remained only on paper. Today, the remnants of that grand idea are scattered across Dubai. Parts were absorbed by other projects, parts were renamed, and some were simply abandoned.
A river in the middle of the desert. And now to Libya, a country where there are practically no rivers, but which decided to build its own. The Great Man-Made River is not just a pipeline. It is a colossal system costing over $20 billion, created to pump water from deep sources under the Sahara to coastal cities and farms. But how is this even possible? The whole scheme is a network of huge underground pipes more than 1,700 miles long. They pump out so-called fossil water, ancient reserves that have accumulated underground for thousands of years. Hundreds of deep wells, pumping stations, kilometers of concrete pipes, all to supply millions of cubic meters of water daily to the country's most arid regions. Construction began in the 80s of the last century, under the rule of Muammar Gaddafi. The project was gigantic in concept and insane in execution. However, it worked. Farms appeared where there used to be desert. People got drinking water in cities where there was none. But there is one problem. These water reserves are non-renewable. When they run dry, it all ends. And years of civil war have left part of the system in ruins. Nevertheless, even today, it continues to work.
Moscow's vertical metamorphosis. Now let's look at the heart of Russia, where harsh Soviet concrete once reigned. A completely new look for the capital is rising today. The Moscow International Business Center, or simply Moscow City, represents more than $12 billion invested in creating an ultra-modern metropolis. These are not just offices. It is a fusion of business, luxury residential complexes, shops, restaurants, and tourist attractions. Towers soar into the sky, breaking familiar horizons. Federation, Mercury, Evolution. The names sound almost like sci-fi heroes. The project started back in the 90s and went through everything: financial crises, delays, changes of plans. But Moscow City continued to grow, floor by floor and year by year. Today, it is a symbol of the Russian capital's new look: glass and steel instead of gray panels. Inside, banks, offices of major corporations, elite apartments. But it was not without criticism. Some skyscrapers stand half empty, and the price tag for housing makes it inaccessible to most Muscovites. Nevertheless, Moscow City is a bid for global status. It is a showcase through which Russia wants to show the world we can build at the level of the planet's leading megacities.
River to order. When water is scarce where it's needed, most countries dig canals or build pipelines. And China? It decided to redirect entire rivers. The South-North Water Transfer Project is one of humanity's most audacious engineering concepts, with a price tag of $48 billion and counting. The gist? Northern China, home to huge cities like Beijing, is literally drying up. The authorities answer: pump gigantic volumes of water from the south, from the Yangtze Basin, through a network of canals, tunnels, and pumping stations stretching for thousands of kilometers. It is a plumbing system, but not in the usual sense. It is on a continental scale. Started in the early 2000s, it is still not finished. Some routes are already delivering billions of gallons of water, saving cities from drought. But it hasn't been smooth sailing. Mass relocations of people, environmental protests, and gigantic maintenance costs continue to haunt the project. Proponents call it China's lifeline. Critics call it an overly expensive and unsustainable solution that cannot work forever.
Experiment with star energy. And now to a project that is literally trying to replicate the power of the sun. In the south of France, one of humanity's most ambitious energy experiments is being built. ITER, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Cost? Over $24 billion. Unlike traditional nuclear power plants that split atoms, a fusion reactor tries to fuse them, as the sun does. If successful, this will provide an almost limitless source of clean energy. But building a machine capable of holding temperatures higher than a star is engineering hell. The project started in 2010 and gathered the efforts of more than 30 countries. Huge, specially created parts were transported across oceans. Construction faced endless delays and rising costs. But the work continues. Giant elements are gradually being assembled like a puzzle. The launch of the first plasma discharge is planned for 2025, although the date has been shifted dozens of times. This is a game with incredible stakes. Giant budgets, huge timelines, and zero guarantee of success. But if it works, it will turn the entire energy industry upside down.
London's underground epic. And now let's transport ourselves beneath the streets of London. They wanted to create a transport revolution there, an ultra-modern railway cutting through the entire city and relieving the old subway. Thus appeared the Crossrail project, now known as the Elizabeth Line. It all sounded like a fairy tale. A new line over 60 miles long, 11 brand new stations, trains capable of carrying tens of thousands of passengers per hour. High-speed connection between Heathrow Airport, Canary Wharf, and other crucial points. But reality turned out to be much harsher. The project was supposed to open in 2018. The finale, it started working only in 2022, 4 years late and with a final price of over $23 billion. The reasons? Old London didn't surrender without a fight. Tunnels had to be dug under historic buildings through layers of ancient rock. Signaling and security systems refused to work together. And then the pandemic, slowing down all processes. Now the Elizabeth Line functions and transports millions of people, but many are still gnawed by the question: was it worth all the stress, delays, and astronomical spending? Yes, it is a miracle of engineering, but also an example of how easily ambitions can collide with the reality of the underground world.
The starfish. When China decides to build an airport, it doesn't do half measures. Daxing International Airport in Beijing represents about $17 billion of investment in one of the most grandiose and ambitious aviation hubs on the planet. Opened in 2019, it immediately made headlines thanks to its incredible design. From the air, the terminal resembles a giant starfish, spreading its rays in all directions. But the spectacular look is only part of the story. Daxing was designed to relieve Beijing's old airport, which was bursting at the seams from passenger traffic. Capacity is up to 100 million people a year. Moreover, High-speed trains and the subway lead right into the terminal. In essence, it is not just an airport, but a mini-city pulsing around the clock. And all this was built in just 5 years, unprecedented speeds for such a behemoth. But behind this speed lay hellish organization. Soft soils required innovative technologies, schedules were frantic, and smart systems had to be integrated at every stage. Today, Daxing is operating at full capacity, symbolizing the incredible pace of Chinese construction. However, there are doubts. The global air travel market is unpredictable, and maintaining such a giant is a very expensive pleasure. So the question remains, is this a bold step into the future or an overly ambitious idea?
Turkey's aerial ambition. And finally, number 1 in our episode. When Turkey decided to build a new airport for Istanbul, it didn't hold back. The project aimed to become one of the largest and most expensive aviation hubs on the planet, with the total cost for all phases exceeding $11 billion. This isn't just a terminal and a couple of runways. This is a true aerial capital. Capacity is up to 200 million passengers a year. It's a chance to displace giants like Dubai, Heathrow, and Atlanta. The airport opened in 2018 and immediately became Turkey's main gateway to the world, replacing the old, overcrowded Ataturk. Colossal area, hundreds of gates, multiple runways, terminals filled with luxury shops and advanced technologies. And this is just the beginning. The plan includes 6 runways, several terminals, hotels, a cargo city, and even its own metro branch. But such ambitions do not come free. Everything was accompanied by disputes about the impact on nature, worker protests, and logistical problems. Nevertheless, the government did not back down. For Turkey, this is a symbol of economic rise and a claim to the place of a key transport hub between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. If all plans are realized, this will be one of the busiest and most important airports on Earth. If not, it will still remain one of the most expensive ventures in aviation history.